RMOX 5521, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. We will have our conversation. We will move from the point we stopped, and we will use a different thing. Something to cut paper to open this crap here. And we will make a movement today, quite simple, quite clear. We please recommended you to consider, take a look at the blog, the risk report trace 2021.blogspot.com, and maybe you will have some hard words there, despite all the measurement of reality. Words very simple, words very, very real, presenting everything we have on present time. And this is the idea. The idea is support the accusation, and this accusation is against some patterns of crimes and criminality and behavior that affect we all, equally threatened by the behavior created by a small group with prevalence and domain of circumstance, and sometimes the entire conjuncture, considering the domain of the national treasury, the public budget, and extended fields or interconnected segments as coalitions, which imply the corporative area. This forces us to understand the quality of this center of investment. And if we take this dive, we will, in a very specific moment, consider, request, and understand which is the motivation and the finalism of this kind of investment as an economic center with a lot of registry as financial registry problems. And we must do this by law. And we must do this using the open data. But as you could observe, when we trace this, we probably won't achieve the argument as intelligence that we need, because the registry is made by the criminals or criminal groups, which indeed are having the misusage of institutions to commit crimes, abuses, unfairness, and hidden themselves inside those institutions as a corrosive argument interconnected. And we can get the association by equivalent perception and knowledge at the economy, which allowed us to understand how the Tanzi effect that impacted taxation, the Laffer effect, which impacts the taxation as the wrong side of the curve, is so dangerous as the Oliveira-Tanzi effect, which indeed is a corrosive argument as capacity to solve problems by the liquidity market, the liquidity money market, as the decreasement of things by the increasement of price. And to both, we have the hyperinflation as an index, which is formed on present time by a conjuncture or as international integration of failures inside conjuncture, forming a systemic failure as a conjuncture for criminality, or a conjuncture as criminal conjuncture by the variables that has this domain. So you created a hyperinflation as index and speech for criminal purpose. You are all there in the same way, considering the cross-cut with the public budget, Brazil, you are all there. we can observe that indeed we had this premise as a database sigma, which is the approach that we are doing by the witness, and the witness under protection. And the witness has signatures on public body as top decisions and transference of stimulus by tax as tax stimulus and other things. Investment, purchase of vaccine, financing research as an argument to transfer the money and other things. This is the idea of this model, and indeed we are observing that on the past we used to have those scams kind of heavy. The overtaxation or the taxation, you had the income at the public area, and then you use the investment system, which is a public investment system, to transfer money by the overpriced contract, and the peer at the corporative area will obtain this advantage. On present time, those coalitions are kind of jumping, or acting per saltum, not considering the taxation as income, because has the public registry and you can't commit this crime. So you consider the hyperinflation to bite the saving of the families, the citizens, and the financial autonomy and independence by the pricing management as a scam, which points to maybe a limited value at the capital asset price management, considering big structures of capital asset formed and oriented to, on present time, support this model. The problem isn't the model. The problem is how you use this model in the way you try to do with my research. When you put many arguments for criminal purpose, and you take it down in each one of them, and then you are under a 33 trillion charge. And you keep hidden yourself inside the institution that have no guts to put you out. But you are an outlaw, and as an outlaw, you have no guarantees, no prerogatives, you have no protection, except if you come to the side of the law and present your reasons as internal conviction to be at that place inside a regular institution with variable -1, or present yourself as a real criminal, 0, +1, and we have the difference by the conviction inside each one of you, despite you both are cowards, and then you must be treated strictly and equally by the identity of the two both. So we could have yesterday this model, which was, I have the premise as a centering thing and my environment, and this premise as centering thing will spread, some things like having the authorization inside regular areas. But I had the authorization inside regular areas as a association circle inside an area square didn't take the entire area. It means that you have values that didn't got qualified yet, and they are inside this, they are witness under protection to present their reasons as motivation that they have to continue in silence, or to do not have the action or the words that must be spelled by them. Then we had this idea. We could have this model in another moment, which was, I have my conjuncture Brazil. My conjuncture Brazil is associated with the international area. And I have my public budget Brazil, which is a projection of the international area inside the Brazil and all things must be according with the Brazilian law. So you set the activism do not respect the constitution and the legal system in Brazil, basic rights and guarantees, and the entire expectation as development of mankind, commit a lot of crimes using the migration of modified data, considering the social security data bank, the tax data bank as economical department, and a lot of things, and everything is okay. Then we could check by law and the constitution according with my research, and there are continuous threats and aggressions and violence and unfair that indeed we had this budget inside an environment legal. And in the same way, this Brazil is inside an environment with a constitution, despite you do not recognize by the deficit as cognitive level, by drug use and corruption and lack of self-determination in each one of you. Then, inside the public budget, then we, by inference and consider the Fibonacci pattern, could get this for sure at the international environment that has regulatory premise, which indeed for sure is do not support the corruption and the criminal crap that we have around. And we will make our movement today, which indeed is the continuation of what we did yesterday, but in a different way. I mean, advancing another step. We will observe that we have this area as a circle, and this premise as circle will be interconnected with all areas. And didn't got all areas as itself. It means that I have one interval in each one of those, areas here. And this interval had the events going inside the institution, inside sports entities, something like this. It means we could have this, and we evidenced this yesterday, which this segmentation here is the area that you couldn't get yet, but you maybe would like to have this, to obtain the square as a global environment, but with an internal value as circle. And we suggested to track this area here, considering that everybody is okay at the very first moment, despite the silence, the lack of self-determination, a lot of things, because sometimes the criminal scheme is so strong and goes, with a bit so hard that this variable is unable to talk, is unable to think, is unable to quit drugs, and drug is a dangerous thing. So we will check this and observe which is the value in each one of them, considering that this area here indeed as the trace we could have as a circle inside the trace +1 in a value 1, right? Now we will check this area here as a square, which has as possibility all possibilities. It means that we have +1, +1, +1 in a value -1. We have 0, 0, -1, which is the informer, which can be the criminal that turns had clandestine entries, remains at the institution by the lack of dignity, and now he will put the institutional level down, save his ass, and maybe you will have a minor consequence against him. And in the end, we have the real criminals. This is the distribution as possibility inside each one of those areas at the top level, which indeed are the witness or the end under protection, if they come to the side of the law, conditional argument. And we will check that indeed those areas here are kind of by the lack of dignity and a lot of things as something that will help me to do the factorization of those areas, because they will talk. And if they talk, I will kind of have this situation here, which will be an argument, structural design with failures maybe. For sure, we must assume that we will have failures at the continuity of the institutional plan around the globe from present time with all failures that we have. We had this model presenting that the integration of failure in each variable in each department will form an institution with failure. At that moment, the hierarchical distribution, we used the model as the Mintzberg design, and we changed the triangle as distribution of institutional power to the Mintzberg design with two circles as technical staff, considering the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the OECD. And at the present time, considering the weapons of mass destruction, we can have maybe the Federal Bureau of Investigation plus the Interpol and the NATO plus the Interpol. You know? Then we will observe that this area here is a failure, and I can't have this failure, so I will use that model which presents the exponential behavior and the linear behavior. I will reduce the time, but this area here, evidence and offering them, which indeed is this area here of failure, and I'm doing another factorization. It's kind of a division and a big dismissing procedure. I'm having the lean management of all international companies around the globe concerning having the continuity plan or by law, and with the dignity and facing the criminal investor that put you down and take the sovereignty of your nation. And now we will have the second boat as departure. Can you get? But this boat on present time will be maybe a minor boat or something like this. We are working with the control until 2028, considering the database Sigma plus approach by witness protection program since you come to the side of the law. Have a nice week.